Welcome back, everybody. Frank Vespi here for Maryland Racing Today, part of the Mid-Atlantic Racing Today family of podcasts. Maryland Racing Today is powered by the Racing Biz, racingbiz.com, and presented by our friends at the Maryland Jockey Club. Joined as I am on this podcast by Mackenzie Pfeiffer and John Piassek. You can see Mac every day of live racing from Laurel Park on the afternoon show as one of the MJC analysts, and you can catch John's picks every day of live racing at Laurel Park on the racingbiz.com. You can also see their thoughts in the handicapping guide presented by our friends at the Maryland Jockey Club. Guys, welcome. Thanks for joining me here today. We'll do a little news. We'll do a little handicapping. Let's start with the news, Mac. I thought of you. I looked at the condition book and I saw the glorious sign of the parentheses with a T inside of them. Turf racing, fixing a return to Laurel April 10th.
Look, there are a few days a year that feel like Christmas to me. Breeders' Cup Saturday is one of them, and the first day of turf racing in Maryland is one of the others. We had some point-to-point action happening this weekend, so that kicked things off, and hopefully we'll get a few sneaky ones out of there that come run on the flat. But it's sort of like the light at the end of the tunnel, even if it's a little chilly today.
It was like 28 degrees when I woke up this morning or something.
Well, my horse has a muzzle on, so the grass is growing and there's reason to be optimistic.
All right. Now, John, you were the first person that I knew, not necessarily the first person ever, but the first person I knew to look at the point-to-points as a way to track down betting opportunities at Laurel on the flat with some horses that might have sneakily gotten a race in.
Well, I have to give a shout out to Barry and all the folks over at the MHBA, because before I started there, I was only dimly aware of their presence, and then I became very familiar, realized those races aren't always in the past performances, and any edge that you can get in these kind of races, you ought to take. So if you are playing these early season grass races, be sure to look on the Central Entry Office website. They can tell you all about the points, point to points. And if you see a horse coming off a long layoff in any of these early season grass races, make sure that you check Central Entry Office first, because they could well have had a race or two under their belts, and most people would never know it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And you get some decent betting opportunities, particularly for the trainers who do a little bit of the jump stuff too, alongside the flat, like a Carrie Bryan. A lot of her horses will have gone through the point-to-points before they arrive. Now, the next thing we need is baby races. The 2-year-olds they're on the grounds, but they're not racing yet. And you look at the entries, we could use some 2-year-olds to go with some turf.
I have to agree. And I'm excited to kind of keep these condition books rolling. And we have the first date of turf marked. I think there will probably be a bunch more races added to it. But spring is looking pretty near for me. And honestly, interesting. We'll see a few different changes for that April book. But looking forward to seeing how horses are placed. And it'll be interesting how people adjust.
All right. First turf scheduled for April 10th at Laurel Park. So we're looking forward to that. John, let's talk about Crab Daddy for a minute. Crab Daddy finished second on debut, won the Pennsylvania Nursery, which is a race that Smarty Jones won, by the way. Then lost 14 consecutive races. Now he's won 2 in a row. He's going pretty good right now.
Well, he was a horse who at about this time last year, I thought was much better than his lines looked. He lost an absolute heartbreaker in this spectacular bid by a nose to a Barbadian runner who went on to have a great season of his own, then kind of tailed off towards the end of his 3-year-old season, but he's clearly found his best self in his last few. 3 starts back, he was second to Lonesome Road, who ran a hole in the wind that day, came back to win a first-level allowance, next time out, and here he takes a step up in class with second-level foes. He goes off at what I thought was a pretty generous 5-2, and he takes advantage of another perfect trip. As you can see, he sat off a 3-way early battle, looms large at top of the stretch. And I was really impressed by how he kicked in the last 8. That's Rampagious, a well-bet Lacey Gaudet trainee who went off favored. But once Crab Daddy strikes the front, he kicks away, wins by a length and a half, earns another big figure on the Equibase scale, the closest available figure. He ran a career best 101 off of his near career top of 95. So I'm very curious to see what he does next. He has one more allowance rung to clear before he'll have to go into stakes competition. But he's one who could make a lot of noise on the circuit throughout the season. And I do believe he is also, I don't think he's quite Maryland Million eligible. I don't think his stallion Uncolino was standing in Maryland at the time. But nonetheless, we'll see him plenty throughout the Mid-Atlantic in 2026.
Yeah, Mac, he's a horse that seems to be coming back around to his best form. You could see that in the clip that we just played, once he switched leads in the lane, it was pretty much over.
It was, and I'm with John in that I was pretty high on this horse this time last year. So to see him get back to that really was exciting for me. I almost wonder, they've tried a few different things with him, and so maybe his form is a bit muddied up, but sticking around the 7 furlong distance just seems to really work for him. He's a funny horse. He gets a bit warm in the paddock, and sometimes people don't like to bet those types, but I actually feel like the last 2 times we've seen him, he really has kind of matured a little bit. And so even if he gets a bit hot, it doesn't impact his race at all. So I don't use that as an excuse. Just a horse who's really been able to find himself recently. And also Vargas with the ride. He's been riding quite well, and that was the ride that impressed me the most from the wings that he's strung together recently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, he's been doing well. He's one you want to keep an eye on. We're a little bit of an embarrassment of riches with bug riders and Laurel right now. You got Hazelwood, who probably should have won the Eclipse Award, and now Vargas is kind of the next guy. Exactly.
So it's pretty fun. It makes for competitive racing, regardless. You can't count any of them out.
We also, John, Linda Albert's having a quietly nice meet there. Small barn, but she's doing well. Here's a little quiz for you guys. Can you name her Preakness starter?
Water Cannon?
Look at you, Water Cannon. Water Cannon, you go back and look at his past performances. Very interesting. He lost his first 6 starts. Then he won 5 in a row. Then he lost 20 in a row. So he was an interesting horse, but he cleaned up all the local stakes, including the Tessio, on the way to the Preakness. Not so much in the Preakness. He was a little over his head there, but I talked to Lynn about that, and it's an interesting thing because you sort of see this every year. It all takes on a logic of its own. Like you win the Miraclewood, so you go to the private terms, so you go to the Tessio and you win those races, and then you go to the Preakness because you go to the Preakness, which is the next logical step, which may not always be logical. But
Well, Magic Wisner is about the only exception to that rule in that he did do well in the Winter Stakes and then just missed in the Preakness. I mean, if Richard McLeroy had moved even 2 seconds sooner, maybe the Preakness drought for Maryland bred is not 43 years, it's only 24 years. But I digress.
Yeah, no. I was at that Preakness and everybody was kind of like, wait, who was second? Nobody knew who the horse was. It was the Baffert horse who had won the Derby won the race, but War Emblem, but nobody had any idea who was second. But Nancy Alberts and Magic Wisner, who then subsequently won the Ohio Derby, and then got Lyme disease, I think, or something.
Yeah,
like
Lyme
that.
disease. He made a full recovery, and as far as I know, he's still alive and kicking and living at old friends in Kentucky.
Yeah, he didn't make a full recovery in the sense that he was a racehorse again.
Correct, but he lived and
he lived, yeah,
more or less.
So anyway, That's what the people pay for, is completely random digressions on horses that ran 20 years ago. So, all right, Mac, let's talk about another horse that had a good Sunday. Bunch of allowance races Sunday. It was an interesting card. This one, Phil Capuano trainee, super impressive debut, and then things kind of went sideways. Looks like Ms. Notion is heading back in the right direction.
I have to agree with you there. And the question was, obviously she needed that race. She didn't run poorly, but to go ahead and get back into gear here, she came back and won this race with an 87 buyer. So big jump up, and was facing the horse that beat her in that 2-back effort or last time out. So we see her in the 4-horse, and the horse on the front end, no slouch either, Greek Heiress, transferring in for Lacey recently and has plenty of early speed. So Miss Notion able to just kind of sit right there on her. The bullet works, maybe a little bit of a tell with what we had underneath, but I thought great ride from Forrest, and just was able to nurse her along and really finish up strongly there once she switches over. And again, those are things that just getting back into the races, no surprise, but to sit there, do the job, and then kick away, everyone else is just chasing her. I liked the way that she strided out here, getting to the wire. All looks really, really promising for her coming back second off the bench and now getting into her 4-year-old year.
Yeah, she had debuted with a 76 buyer, John, as a 2-year-old, then lost her rider leaving the gate in a stake in her second start, then missed her entire 3-year-old season, didn't get back till January with a pretty good try, as Mac just said, and then this one.
Well, speaking of the handicapping guide, I did note after her first race off of that year plus layoff, keep her in mind for next time, because she's going to run a lot better, and she did, and paid what I thought was a generous $620. She has a ton of pedigree by Great Notion, a descendant of Maryland-bred Horse of the Year, Gin Talking, and really in any race except for that effort in Maryland Juvenile Fillies, she really has not set a foot wrong in any of those starts. Still has plenty of allowance conditions to work through before she'll have to face stakes company, but she's someone else who I think could make a lot of noise in the state this year. And of course, being by Great Notion, I know I always get a hard time about this, but if there was a Maryland Million Distaff future book, I would take a pretty close look at her.
Mac, I think what we need to really do is keep track of the future books that John is creating here. What do you think?
I agree. No, I think it could be fun. And maybe we, Frank, you're pretty tech savvy, right? Can we get a poll going on X or something and get other people in on this? I was just pitching we should maybe forecast where Maryland horses are going to run for Preakness weekend too. Some really fun undercard stakes. We'll see.
All right. Yeah, no, I like it. I like it. We get where the Maryland bred's going. We get Maryland. Now, what was that? Maryland Million Distaff future book? Is that what we're making?
Yes, my imaginary future book, and not all of this is recorded. Pretty much any time a Maryland bred wins a stake, or any Maryland horse wins a stakes or a high level allowance in the winter, I'll be like, boy, if you had a Pimlico Special future book, or if you had a DeFrancis Dash future book, I would jump in on that one. And then I get a hard time from people. But you know what? I'm always thinking ahead, because it's a nice feeling to be able to, when a horse becomes a star and you're able to say, I knew that horse won.
Yeah.
Barbadian runner for me. That was the
Actually, so it's funny you say that, because my buddy Ted Black, who writes for the RacingBiz.com and has covered racing for a bazillion years at this point, I talked to him the other day. He said he's coming to the track Saturday, and one of the reasons, one of the sort of rationales is that they're running a private term Saturday. And he was at Laurel when Private Terms made his debut, which is, I don't know, 40 years ago?
87, like so almost 40.
Yeah. So anyway, so yeah, he's coming for that. So he knew that horse when. Yeah, no, Barbadian. That's a good one, Mac. That's when you'll that Barbadian's it's such a nice story. It's like that's one of the horses you'll remember for a long time, I think.
Right. It was one of those sort of hunch plays, and couldn't get him out of my head. And then he just ran huge, and he just kept trying, and he just kept getting better.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, and you had every reason to root for him as well. But, you know, it's so fun. I'm with John, where it's just, you pick those horses, and that's kind of what gets you into it, and watching the story unfold.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's cool when you can follow the story all the way through. So, all right. Well, that's the news for today. We are heading into a big weekend at Laurel. We've got Saturday. We've got the private terms for 3-year-old boys going tomorrow on the 16th. First 2-turn test. And then additionally, we've got the Beyond the Wire for the fillies going a 1-turn mile. Those races are pointing respectively to the Preakness and the Black-Eyed Susan. Next month, we'll have the Weber City Miss for the fillies and the Federico Tessio for the boys. So things are starting to get hot and heavy. Why don't you guys do some handicapping, and I will do what I do best, which is disappear.
Disappear. You're working on the back end side, making.
Yeah. That's it. I'm working. Working. Yeah. Definitely doing that. All right. I'll catch you guys in a little bit.
All right.
I'm waiting for him to leave so I can say I'm picturing him sitting there with the dog. Oh, wait, let me get this video up, right?
I'm always impressed he comes back right away after we're done.
I know. He's pretty prompt. There's no cue. All right. So fun sequence here. I'm still sort of picking apart how I want to attack it. I might try to go ahead and single in this first leg of it, though. John, what's your key?
So we'll talk about it a bit more later on. My definite single is going to be in the private terms. Number 1, Let's Go Lando. My possible single, at least a spotlight horse, is going to be in the Beyond the Wire, and that's Miss Bolton Gal, who we talked about a few weeks ago. I think, again, as we'll discuss, she could be fairly sneaky in this contest.
So you might go and single both of those
Possible. I got to say.
Okay. All right. Well, let's see who else demands a little bit of value and makes you spread out here. In the first leg, we're going to go 1 mile and a 16th on the dirt. And I have a question, really. Secret Zipper, do you think he gets the chance to get loose on the lead, or is he going to have company out there?
Well, I think this is an absolute now or never spot for Secret Zipper, who not too long ago was a very nice horse. He has a great pedigree. I mean, his half-sister, Onyx 10, had a very nice season last year. I mean, he's trained by a very high-profile trainer in Gary Capuano, and yet he's been struggling pretty badly over the past few months. He lost his last 2 starts by double digits, albeit both times against tougher horses. And as you pointed out, he was not able to make the front in either of those 2. He had to deal with Barbadian Runner and Post Time in the Richard Small, then had a bad break last time out and didn't do much. There's really no other speed in here. This is just completely devoid of early pace. If he's ever going to find his best self again and take a field gate to wire, it's going to be this one, because there's really no excuse for him to do otherwise.
Exactly. My only concern really is that everyone knows the game. And so if they're able to reel him in, Hagrid's Flame could present a real challenge for him. I thought Martin Schwann did a really nice job with this one, kind of jumping back into form after trying Parks and New York in the 2 and 3 back efforts. But, you know, seems to run a pretty good race. And in that 4 back here at Laurel, he was up against it with Wooster. So solid company.
I think if Hagrid's Flame does challenge Secret Zipper, it's going to set up very well for Take the Pledge for Cal Lynch. This one is absolutely no early speed at all. But when he gets a pace to close into, he takes advantage. He won 3 out of 4 before going on the sidelines in mid-June of last year. Came back against Hagrid's Flame at this level last time out. Fell far off a very slow pace, but still ran probably about as well as one could have expected. He came in 4th, beaten less than 5 lengths, and a very nice figure of 88 on the Brisnet scale. Now, if Secret Zipper does get his clear early lead, he's got Take the Pledge has no shot to run him down. But if things get a little bit contested up front, I think it's going to set up beautifully for Take the Pledge in his second start off the bench.
Now, I was pretty high on Take the Pledge in that first start off the bench, but I did worry if he needed a race. And now coming back into things, okay, makes sense because he's actually done quite well in those second off the bench. He won at second asking early on in that maiden special weight. And then he had a little bit of a, break between races that year, but second off of the bench in December of 24, also a win. Second off the bench in March of 2025. That's where he notched his third win. So maybe he could go ahead and keep that pattern going here, and certainly warrants keeping a few options open in that pick 5. Crossland, is he one who might be jumping back in form? Do you have to go ahead and use him in here?
I'm going to take a shot against him. I mean, he always runs well, but he just hasn't won it in such a long time. He kind of runs the same race pretty much every time, where he sits just off the pace, makes a bit of a move, not a move good enough to win, and ends up getting a slice. So I'll let him beat me. As of right now, I have him picked third. That's subject to change, of course, but I just can't see using him, especially in a fairly small field where going to have to make some cuts in order to get some value.
I agree with you. In 47 lifetime starts, he's been second 11 times and he's been third 11 times. Yeah. So he's racked up over $350,000 in the career, but he's one who I've really held out hope for. But playing the pick 5, you have to pick the winner. You don't have to pick the second and third place. So I agree with you there. Now, race number 6, shorten up quite a bit for the 3-year-old girls, and this goes 6 furlongs. I thought I might try to single here, but makes me a little bit nervous. Who are you going to go ahead and use?
This is probably the most wide open race in the sequence. My top pick is number 4, Whim of Fortune for Irvin Flores and Jan Rodriguez. She made her debut last time out in a race in which my girl back home just absolutely towered over the field. She blew them off their feet, really never let anybody else have a shot. But in isolation, Whim of Fortune did run pretty well. Came from off the pace, ended up finishing a clear-cut second, ran a respectable figure on a Brisnet scale of 62. She's one who I think could take a step forward second time out at hopefully a decent price.
Look, and Turkish Breeze came back to win as well, so no slouch either in that one. And looked really good doing it. So I do, there's a 25 buyer fig for this one's debut, but I still think you can give a little extra credit because she was pretty respectable in that. Maybe she was a little silly coming onto the track for that first time out, so one to maybe watch in the paddock and see how she handles the second time out in the afternoons, but I'm not going to talk you off of her. I do want to get your take on a horse that Carrie Bryan sends out, transferring in from New York, and, just missed going the 6 furlongs. I thought ran a pretty good race when adding Lasix and blinkers last time out.
Speaking of Carrie, who we talked about earlier in the show, she's starting to ramp up her stable as grass season approaches. As you said, she ran pretty well last time out. Really, her only bad race in 3 career starts came when she broke slowly 2 starts ago. I just don't think there's going to be much value to be found. I think bettors are going to see Carrie and her New York lines and kind of flock. I mean, I would use her in the pick 5 because I think there is value to be found elsewhere in the sequence. So if she wins, it doesn't kill off the possibility of the sequence paying well, but I would want more value if I was going to bet her to win.
I have to agree. Now, another one who, Gripin for Robbie Bales, faced Juniper's Jubilee. So we talk about races where it was a horse that towered over the field. Mm-hmm. And that to me feels like one as well. Maybe had a little bit too much work to do for that debut, but I saw her and I thought she looked pretty good. She's out of a mare who ran twice, faced an off track in both of those, but tried sprinting, and I believe it was New York Company both times. So certainly has a little bit of pedigree with the Constitution there.
I have to respect this one as well. I mean, anyone who shows speed at first asking, I'm always encouraged by. This one, as you mentioned, chased the pace, which included heavily favored Juniper's Jubilee, who did come back to win her next start. Gripin really never had much of a chance against her. This is a easier field than that time, and she could well find herself on the early lead, especially breaking from Dolly's Jolene's inside.
I agree with you there. And really, the class relief kind of stands out. I agree in that it's a little bit of a wide open affair for the group. Maggie's Moon, also for Damon Dilladovico, comes out of that Juniper's Jubilee race. I like that she has a bullet work back on the 14th of March. Do you use her in that pick 5?
She has worked well since then, but she did fade much more rapidly than Gripin did. Only upsides are that Dilladovico does do much better second time out than first, and it's nice to see Yezid Hazelwood, who's winning at a torrid 29% at the meet, get aboard for the first time. So I don't know if I'm going to use her, but I would not fault somebody who did.
Yes, I agree with you there. She's one who I just think will keep improving. Now, race 7, we get to some stakes action here. And I know you've been waiting to talk about Miss Fulton Gal. I am with you there. I worry a little bit going the one turn, but last time we saw her do it was over a wet track, and maybe the fast track really kind of helps move her back into things.
Yeah, she's someone who's only competed in Stakes Company once. That was in the White Clay Creek against Dazzling Dame. Miss Fulton Gal didn't do much that day, but did run very well last time out on the General George Barbara Fritchie undercard. Came from off the pace that day. She's the 5-horse here in the green cap. Saves tons of ground, closes off a fairly moderate pace, and ends up winning this one by 2.5 lengths, going away with a career best figure on the Brisnet scale of 84. She is about to run down Ivy Girl, who finished second. That one came back to win the mainline stakes at Parks back on March 3rd, and is one who we may see in the Weber City Miss in a few weeks. Here's Miss Fulton Gal running them down and pulling away. I had talked about her a few weeks ago as a possible dark horse on the Maryland 3-year-old scene. Now she's getting her test here. She has great late speed, has the best last out figure on that Brisnet scale. Nothing spectacular, but definitely showing slow and steady improvement. I think she could easily make a winning rally and get the job done here.
Look, and she actually did that with a 60 buyer, but her career best comes from that debut effort going the 6 furlongs where she ran things down. You always have to respect a horse who can go out the first time and come from off the pace. And, maybe there's something to really pick apart with those one-turn efforts, because in the 2 back, I mentioned wet track, Mo Maxey, kind of a surprise, who we were wondering what she would come back and do after that maiden score. And then if you go to the 4 back effort, Noble Status was another one who it was just a big surprise, and I don't necessarily think she saw her coming. And then you mentioned the Dazzling Dame. So I don't know if we can write her off as needing the 2 turns. And I like that she comes out of that inside trip there, as you were just mentioning as well. It certainly gives you some encouragement for the post that she draws here. Now, who else is it that you have to use in here if you aren't singling Miss Fulton Gal?
Well, I know we've talked about number 5, Peach Tie, many, many times. She is undefeated on conventional dirt, going 5-4-5. She's won all of those races going away. In both of her recent stakes wins, she battled for the early lead and kicked away, including in the wide country last time out, where she beat Law School and Mo Maxey, both of whom are also in this race. I know you've been high on her for a long time. I do think she merits a lot of respect, but I do think she is will go off favored. Possibly a single on many pick 5 tickets. So I think if you can beat her, it's going to open up that pick 5 sequence quite a bit.
I do agree with you there. So my take, I try to use 2 or 3 in here and keep that option open, because I'm not sure I can single either of the stakes. That's maybe where people are going to be looking. Mo Maxey and Law School both had Yedzit Hazelwood and still have Yedzit Hazelwood named on them. If you were him, who would you be riding?
It's tough. On one hand, Jose Corrales is the guy who brought him here and is in fact Hazelwood's legal guardian. On the other hand, Law School is probably the better of two fillies. He's been riding for Ness quite a bit and has ridden this one in her last few starts. So I might lean towards Law School and just tell Jose no hard feelings. But I do wonder if Law School maybe peaked too soon. She ran huge races 3 and 4 starts back rather. Then ran second to Peach Tie in a wide country. And while Peach Tie did run big that day, I would have expected Law School to run a bit better. Then she went off as the 1-5 favorite in the aforementioned main line and really didn't do much that day. It's possible coming back here is going to wake her back up, but those last 2 races leave me a bit cold.
That's exactly how I feel on her. Mo Maxey maybe has a little bit more upside in there. We'll go ahead and see. Some ride comes in for Dutrow, and this one won in Maiden Special Weight Company going a mile. Do you have to use this one, or how much weight do you put behind her?
I'm not sure if she's classy enough here. Everybody else in this field, or all but one rather, have won multiple races. Many of them have won against winners going a mile or longer. This one is not. I mean, she did run well at Aqueduct last time out. Full of Tact, who came in second that day, came back to break her maiden Ness timeout. She has, I think, a decent amount of ability, but not enough to overcome that class deficit.
I have to agree. Now, Some Money will face open company here after winning in restricted company for the maiden special weight, but Fun Group going the mile will stretch out to 2 turns for the private term. Now, you have a horse who you're pretty high on, and I don't think anyone's going to talk you off. Let's hear it.
It's number 1, Let's Go Lando, one of 3 horses in here for Gary Capuano, who, as you talked about, has just an embarrassment of riches in the 3-year-old male department. This one I've been keeping an eye on pretty much since his debut, and he's really come into his own in his last few starts. He had a first level field going away on opening weekend, then ran, I thought, a very big race in the Miracle Wood against Taj Mahal. He's in the yellow and maroon silks on the outside. He's making a move in the 3 path, and at this point, he looks ready to just blow by Taj Mahal, who is coming off an impressive maiden win. But Taj Mahal would not go down without a fight. These 2 dueled throughout the stretch run of the 1-turn mile. And while Let's Go Lando could not get by Taj Mahal, take nothing away from Let's Go Lando. He ran a huge race on his own volition. Taj Mahal ran huge second time out. And you can tell how they think pretty highly of Taj Mahal because news came out the other day that he's pointing for the Wood Memorial and joining the Derby Trail. So certainly no slouch that Let's Go Lando lost to. He's already won by open lengths around 2 turns. He's already run big figures going a mile or longer. He has some of the best late pace figures in this field. I think he's a horse who's only going to get better as time goes on, and he should get a good trip off the pace on the inside.
I have to agree with you. He could really, and I think he's probably going to end up being a fair price in here. Now, one thing I wonder if we need to pay attention to is Gary Capuano has 3 horses entered in here. Do you think he can just go ahead and go 1, 2, 3?
Yes, I do. I think all of his are very nice horses. I want to note also, by the way, that all 3 of these horses worked a mile here last Saturday. Let's Go Lando and Wild Warrior, number 6, who I know you're pretty high on, both went in 1:43 and 1/5 seconds, while Hollywood Import, who is probably the most ballyhooed of the 3. He's already a multiple stakes winner. He's Triple Crown nominated. I know Gary was talking about him as a possible Gotham horse. He worked more than a second slower than the other 2. What, if anything, do you make of that?
Look, and that's kind of the wonder, or that's where I was sort of leading into, because Hazelwood lands on Wild Warrior, and that's the horse I kind of pegged as the 2-turn horse back in December. And then Tori Alba goes with Let's Go Lando, even though he won the spectacular bid on Hollywood Import. Now I say Tori Alba goes there. Who knows whether or not this was jockey trainer or how that worked out. But, you take it into consideration. Michael Sanchez also won on the horse in the heft, though. So it's not like we're really trading things off. Certainly, this is a horse who can be successful, but he's stretching out to the 2 turns. Is maybe we found that this is a horse who that's his trick. It works going the 7 furlongs. This is a big change going the 2 turns, and so we have other horses who maybe show a little bit more just at this time. Not to say that he can't get there, but I just think that for where they are right now, that work probably gave a lot of information for the connections. And, I say that, and Hollywood Import has won at a price before, though. So watch him make the front end and not let go is the other thing. Now, is there anyone else in here that you have to use? Code of silence, getting to the 2 turns, is that going to make a big difference?
Our pal Frank has been talking about Code of Silence for a long time as a horse who, A, is going to like 2 turns, and B, is going to get better as he gets older. He's hit the board in both of his starts this year, finishing 3rd both times, came from well off the pace in both of those starts, and rallied well in the 7 furlong spectacular bid after a bit of an awkward start, got up to 3rd by a neck behind the aforementioned Hollywood Import. He's never been 2 turns in his life. In fact, he's only been a mile 1 time. I mean, it's certainly possible that he can. Thing is, though, is we know everybody else or most of the other contenders can do well around 2 turns because they've already wanted it. We think Code of Silence can, but we don't know for sure just yet.
I agree with you. And he's a horse who you just need to demand some value on. But one thing that stands out as far as how do you use him is he's a horse who in 7 career starts, he's only been out of the money once. And that was in the Maryland Million Nursery when he really just had a bad trip from the start, and he still ran on. He didn't pack it in. So he's a horse who tries, and he's a horse who finds his way into the money. Demand a little bit of value. There's no way he goes off the favorite, but if you have some upside there, he certainly could reward you with exacta tries. And I mean, it wouldn't be any surprise if he were able to really flourish going 2 turns. But again, the experience from others makes it hard to go up against. Now we wrap things up with a claiming 12.5, non-winners of 3 lifetime, also going 1 mile and a 16th. Some speed on the inside from Strategist. Sometimes he can be a little bit fussy, but he can also get pretty brave when he's out there on the front.
Yes, he can. He's run a lot of big races, and he's also run a lot of clunkers, such as last time where he couldn't make the front and ended up losing by a city block. I do think he'll have a much easier time getting to the front end here and should get his trip. A top pick is number 3, Twice Gold, who cleared his now known as a 2 condition in very impressive fashion. 2 starts back, finished 2nd at this level last time out. Matched his recent Brisnet figure high with a 79 after running not nearly that well throughout last year. So I think life may have begun at age 7 with this horse. He's definitely moving in the right direction. Yedzit Hazelwood stays aboard. I think he'll get a good trip off of Strategist. And if Strategist falters, Twice Gold is going to be there to pick up the pieces.
I have to agree with you there. He really does look like the winner on paper to me, and I like that we've seen him just take steps forward in all of the recent starts. Lucked In, another one who I really like for routing. I'm not sure I like him for the 2 turns, though. Do you count him out, or you think maybe you draw a line through the 2 back?
I think you have to draw a line through the 2 back. I did really like his last race. As you mentioned, he had a tough trip. Had to check a few times on the turn, but did close well and missed by just a half length. He's very consistent as far as his figures go. On that Brisnet scale, he's run in the 70s 4 times in his last 5 starts. But I just don't think his ceiling is quite as high as that of Twice Gold. But if I'm singling Let's Go Lando and I end up singling Miss Fulton Gal as well, I will have the opportunity to spread and use both of them. I want to note also, Lucked In was bred by Katie Voss, who still owns and trains. She also bred Twice Gold, who could be a Voss exacta in the finale.
There you go. It's always nice when you have a few horses to cheer for in the race. We'll see if Frank has anyone else for us to cheer for, or any hot tips on us or if he fell asleep. Waiting. Oh, there he
Oh
is.
man. Whew. That was a good nap. Were you guys talking about something? I missed it.
Compelling. You were right there with the videos. I can't give you a hard time.
Yeah, sure you can. You're actually expected
I
to.
will. Yeah. Actually, Siri was paying attention. Did you hear her chime in?
I did. She didn't quite catch it though, which is how I often feel after the races. No, I heard you guys not too much love. Excuse me, love for Code of Silence. You'll all pay for that.
I'm ready.
Yeah, no,
We will be silenced.
Actually, it is interesting. We talked off air, Mac, and you referenced this a minute ago, but that of the 3 Gary Cap horses, Wild Warrior is clearly the least accomplished on paper. Hazelwood lands on Wild Warrior. I feel like there's a message there somewhere.
There is. I mean, and that's what we were saying with they work together. And it's interesting where jockeys go. To be honest, I really liked the horse in the 2-back effort in December. He went very fast, chasing a pretty competitive Bala de Plata for Jamie Ness. And he tired a little bit, but I also thought that, he was maybe handridden a little bit, kind of light urging. I liked the willingness there. I didn't feel like, even if he looked tired at one point, he switched leads. Things really came together. And part of it is he's only gone the 2 turns once since the blinkers went on. So maybe just a different horse from that second start.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We'll see. It'll all come out.
Right.
And we can recap the whole thing when we meet next week.
Next week. Yeah. No, and I mean, you guys have heard me say this 100 times. I am looking forward to seeing Code of Silence go 2 turns. I have felt strongly that he wanted that. Tim Keefe, who I had on the show Tuesday, thinks that's what he wants. And at the very least, he shouldn't be 100 lengths back early. Assuming he can get out of the gate, which has been an issue for him. I mean, he creates some of his own problems. There's kind of no question about that. But he runs, the way he was closing in the Spectacular Bid, if he can kind of just, get himself in striking range, I keep feeling like there is a race out there for him where it comes together and you say, oh, wow, this is a pretty good horse. Whether it's going to be Saturdays, we'll see.
Look, I'm not singling because I do think you have to use him, but I will say I've never seen a campaign talking a horse into the winner's circle as much as you have for this one. And so
Absolutely. I'm all in. John's got Let's Go Lando. I've got Code of Silence, and at the end we'll see where we are. But is that your dog, Mac?
No, it's a friend's dog. A little bit smaller than mine.
Okay.
Higher pitched
dog. Okay. Well, there's obviously something urgently demanding your attention. So
maybe they like Code of Silence too, and they
yes,
about how much they agree with Frank. Like, wow, Frank, he makes some pretty good points.
Yeah, wow.
Exactly.
That guy's got insight. If, you know what? If the dog's like me, I'm doing all right. So,
look, the show is not sponsored by the connections of Code of Silence. I feel like we should preface that.
No, it's definitely not sponsored by the connections of Code of Silence. But if Ken Holt is listening, something to think about.
Big fans here.
Yeah. So we'll see about that. But anyway, so Saturday we got the private terms for 3-year-olds. We got the Beyond the Wire for 3-year-old fillies, and anyway, that's going to do it here for us, Maryland Racing Today, part of the Mid-Atlantic Racing Today family of podcasts. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Mackenzie. Thank you, John, for sharing your expertise, as you guys do every week. We appreciate that. Please do like and subscribe. Amazon Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, wherever. Podbean, you can like and subscribe, and we appreciate that very much. We'll be back. The 3 of us will be back next week to recap and look ahead and plan some new future books and all kind of good stuff. And Mid-Atlantic Maryland Racing Today will be back Tuesday with another interview. So join us then. Thanks, everybody. We'll catch you next week.